Let's talk now to Isabel Hilton, who's the founder of China Dialogue. Good to see you again, Isabel. Welcome back to the programme. So as we were hearing there, climate change very much in focus on this final day of the G20. But having said that, the draft communiqué, the document effectively summing up the action plan, doesn't mention transitioning away from fossil fuels. Are we looking at climate commitments being actually watered down?
Well, there's certainly, I think, disappointment in Baku because the talks are going very sticky in Baku for lots of reasons that we're all familiar with. But they were hoping for a big injection of energy from G20, and I'm afraid this isn't really it. You know, we've already had a commitment to transition away from fossil fuels at previous COPs, so it's significant that G20 did not reiterate that. It's also significant that in the final communiqué, a proposal that developing economies should make voluntary contributions to climate finance, which was heavily discussed in the run-up to G20, it didn't make it into the final statement. So I think the general impression is unfortunately one of some disappointment.
In the United States, of course, we know Donald Trump is now heading back to the White House. He places something of a different emphasis on climate issues than the outgoing president. Who do you think now globally is going to take the lead on climate issues?
That's very hard to say. I mean, there is going to be a vacancy at the lead. In fact, you might argue that the United States didn't really deserve the top spot anyway, given that it's been in and out of the whole global process before. Donald Trump, you may recall, withdrew from Paris last time he was president. But I think in terms of dynamic leadership for the UNFCCC, I think this is a big loss. It's a big loss that the United States will absent itself. The last time this happened, China stepped up to say, yes, we are still committed, we are reliable in this respect, and China has made a considerable contribution. But as long as China is the world's biggest emitter and its emissions don't start to drop, it's difficult for China to claim the real leadership spot. The European Union is reducing its emissions pretty rapidly. However, the European Union as a geopolitical actor is again, it's not quite there. And in the European Union, in several countries, we're seeing the rise of some right-wing parties that are more hostile to climate action. So what I suspect will happen is that we'll get smaller coalitions of the willing, we'll get leadership, not so much in the whole overall climate mission, but in certain parts of it, parts that are easier for some countries to collaborate on, or cities. There will be different coalitions while we're waiting for a major power to assert leadership.
So we have these 20 leading economies all working together in what's increasingly becoming a multipolar world, different geopolitical tensions among them. Do you think the G20 still works?
Well, we'll see. The G20 is not immune from the tensions, as you say. I think it's very important that, given these tensions, that leaders have a chance to get together once a year without having to arrange a state visit, a kind of big bilateral. Those are always harder to arrange. But under the cover of a group meeting, you can have all sorts of bilateral conversations that can help. And, you know, as tensions rise, I think that leaders need to talk to each other more, so that while G20 may not be able to take decisive action as it did, for example, in the global financial crisis in 2009, where it was pretty critical what G20 did, it's not achieving that right now. However, the fact that they meet and talk remains important.